and then there was this film here that we heard about, and then now this hit home. And it was such a treat that to find out that this was there. And I want to go through that history because this is something that was filmed in 1972, right? 72. You know, the instinct of as people get older, as they were part of a generation, is to do an oral history, is to get their memories.
Right.
You see this all the time. I'm very curious when you talk about your father's thinking in terms of doing this type of oral history in which...
So it's close collaboration that they had. And I say that she was like the nucleus, and these folks would just gather around and the fire just exploded.
In a certain sense, I mean, I'm sure it's not a direct parallel, but by having people gather in Duke's house and having drinks, it's a little bit, one sense is that it's the Harlem Renaissance, a lot of this stemmed from them socializing and drinking and hanging out. It's almost, I know not a direct parallel, but that setting was a little bit kind of like.
Yeah, that was the idea, absolutely. That was the idea, to have that kind of feel to it. Because it was one of the things, as Ferry Major says, wherever party they went to, you see pretty much the same people. And it was so, when they were all there, a lot of them knew each other back then, seeing each other first after 50 years. And so that was exciting for them. And having at Duke Ellington's house, of course, I'm sure that didn't hurt in any invites. But I think that, as a matter of fact, Arnold Baumton said that Very Major, who was a society editor at the time, Arnold Baumton was a poet. And he said when he first spoke with Jerry, he said she didn't want to come. No, I don't want to do another one of these things, you know. And then afterwards, when she got there, obviously, she couldn't have missed this.
And the other thing is the alcohol keeps this thing like an art.
Yes.
Everybody's very nice, very polite,
sure.
But things get a little...
Yeah, I remember at the very beginning, they said, let's take it a moment, let them take a moment, let them get a have a little something to drink, we'll get loosened up, and then we go into, sit down.
And now, you were a camera person,
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what was the plan? What was your dad's plan going into this? There wasn't that much crew, but what was the kind of...
Well, as he says, this is a film that, as he says, it's concept, this is made in the editing room, because the director doesn't know what he's going to get, So he had the camera people there, where I was very happy and surprised to be a part of, because they had, at that time, our key silver camera people, to be included as one of them, So this is very exciting.
You've been working with your dad, basically worked with your dad for like 15 years, roughly.
Yes, I did.
Between in editing room and camera. Right?
Yes.
I just want to have that, make sure we get that.
Oh, sure, first in the editing room and so, and where was I?
You were honored that he asked you to be a
Oh, yes, to be a cameraman.
And I didn't want you to sell yourself short. You were part of these films for 15 years.
So, it was because we had if we were our key camera people there, to be included as one of them, I knew this was very important for me. It was a big step, because I've done other camera work, but this was at another level, I felt, with these folks. And people say, well, what do you remember about the shoot? And I don't remember anything about the shoot, I'll be honest with you. And although, as I looked at the footage, I said, well, I must have remembered this one. And I see myself in the mirror.
But there's got to be an element of, because there's different rooms, like what room are you going to be in? Which conversation? It seemed like your dad started to prompt conversations for the whole group to have.
Oh, and in that part, absolutely.
But was there even a game plan of like, what room you're going to be in, or is it like a tap on the shoulder, you got to go in there?
Oh, occasionally, yes. Occasionally there would be this, get the door, capture the door. But basically it was, he just trusted the camera people to know what it is that he wanted, and what he wanted always was to capture the light, you know. So we would go roaming around, getting conversations with 2 cameras and a sound person. And, total of 4 cameras and two sound people working in the 1, 2, 3 rooms, just moving where we see a couple of people having a conversation. You know, go over there, take that, and so yeah, it was just very fluid, very similar, very tame, you know. And then during the, of course, the big discussion, he would say, "What about so and so? What about such and such?" You know, and so they would follow that.
I apologize ahead of time. The film that I'm about to talk about is one of the greatest films ever made. It means a great deal to me. I am embarrassed to say it in public because I never get it right. So say it.
Symbiocyclotaxoplasm, take 1.
Thank you. It is a masterpiece if you guys haven't seen it. And that predated.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about my sense of your father was, I mean, that film opened up the nonfiction world, let alone his world. But coming off that into this, I have to imagine there's certain things he's liberated, he's freer.
Sure.
Like I noticed a split screen. I feel like maybe that film led to certain things that you can do with this one.
Oh, absolutely. I said Symbio gave us license to do whatever we wanted to do. When I had split screen, fine. When I had the slate on camera, that's fine. When I had the director on camera getting ready, that's fine. It just gave us the license to do things that aren't usually in the film, you know. And so Symbio was a very important thing to tell us how free we could be, you know, and recording and what we put on the screen.
So, what was the process with this one, and how did it mirror normally in terms of the editing? Were you guys in the editing room very quickly after this, or
Well, we did a initial pass through the footage.
Soon after.
Yes, yeah, after we shot it, and I was sinking, and then we screened it just I think we just screened it just that one time going through it, and then he had other projects to do, and then he and my stepmother kept shooting actually for the next 10 years, things that were happening in Harlem. I think they were thinking of and in his film treatment, it was sort of it wasn't just the party, it was interviews outside and interviews.
This was going to be a part of something larger.
Well, his script was different than the film, but the concept was absolutely what we have in the film. I'm very certain about that. But what he had written out and involved like Sidney Poitier doing that narration, so other people commenting on the thing, and it just worked out that just keep it on these folks at the bar. Don't try and talk about them. Let them talk about them themselves, and they're so. Well, these are, how they put it, these are just special folks. They were special back then. They remain special 50 years later. And they could speak about that at that time. So it was how do I put it? It was,
No, I'm very curious. Well, there's the idea that the movie could just be inside. You don't need to move outside of Duke's house.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's all right in there. I'm curious through that evolution, why was it not finished? And I believe he picked it up again later in the 21st century. Why was the film not finished initially?
The film wasn't finished because they kept shooting. Yes, they kept shooting contemporary interviews. They did a lot of going up to Harlem, capturing various events. I think thinking about in this, as I say, this treatment, it was a wider kind of view of not just that time, but also what Harlem was in the 80s.
Because from the start, the idea was what is the cultural impact of the Harlem Renaissance?
Right.
And from its, I know that was said afterwards, but that was the original conception too. So to be able to, in the 70s and 80s, look at what the impact was, that's partially what they were doing.
That's part, yeah, the whole Black arts movement grown out of the Renaissance. And I think they just want to show that impact on the current, at that time, current intellectual scene. So there was, as I said, there's a lot of additional shooting, which I don't think I would be able to incorporate in the film. I just, you've got to stay with the party, stay with these people, and they just look so great up on screen.
In your father's lifetime, did he recognize what was ultimately concluded, that it should just stay in the party?
Oh, no, as I said, his treatment involved a lot of other things, and he was not able to, because he became very ill, so he was not able to.
Well, while he was alive, did he? While he was alive, did he start to see that a documentary just staying inside the party was the way to go?
I don't know that. I'll be honest, I don't know that. I know his treatment was different, and they did continue shooting for the film. So, but the party was always going to be at the centerpiece. So it was going to be the centerpiece.
So what was the impetus then to, what drove them after he passed to do this?
Yeah, well, I had said to Louise, my stepmother, after he passed, I said, Dad couldn't finish the film because he has to be a part of it. It was about him. So so that's why you see in the beginning, as I was doing research in his books, because he has books that he would on Eastern philosophy. I mean, notes all through, underlining and other margins and what this meant, etc., etc. And in the editing room, he would say things like, David, as we who are enlightened, we must make the sacrifices. Things like that. He would come up with these phrases that I didn't know. And it was only when I started to do the research and read his the writing, I said, oh, that's where this came from, I did not know just all writings they've done that I had no idea about. So I said, yeah, this has to be a part of it.
Because he had said, he had said himself, he grew up in the shadow of the age that he grew up.
Sure.
In the shadow of the Renaissance. I also pulled a quote where he said, these were the people who shaped me.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was later in life, he said, that's why he said film. It feels like, if I'm understanding correctly, that idea of why to film this, because these are the people that shaped me, it feels like what you did was put that more forward, right? Is to almost allow your father to have that voice as the person who is gathering this and leading this as kind of that next generation who is sort of shaped by these people.
Yeah, well, that's why I said, told me, he has to be in it because he just wanted to capture this era, capture these people, and yet he was so, as you say, influenced by it that I felt that he had to be an integral part of it. So that's why it starts off the film, you see the end of the film, and then at the end of the film. And so that was the idea, frankly, just to make sure that he were able to understand that this guy did this incredible thing.
It's really interesting to think about this film being about how culture is passed on. you filmed this 50 years essentially after the heart of the, the 20s.
Sure.
And now you're finishing it 50 years after that, roughly.
Yeah, right.
And it's just interesting because I imagine even just that, like, if you were looking at Harlem in the 70s and 80s, you're looking at direct, like, descendants. Or and now it feels like it's even a more pulled back thing, right? Like, that perspective is different. Right?
Yeah, it is different. It is different because they would, if they were, I sometimes imagine, what would they think of the States today, And it would be they would be surprised at the, well, gee, you had a black president and black mayors of New York. Gee, 3, 4 women on the Supreme Court. This is a big deal. But then they would look closer, and see the pullback of voting rights and the gerrymandering and redistricting, and we still got that problem, So.
Now, I saw that you all digitized all. When you went to New Restoration, you digitized all 60,000 hours, or footage, I'm sorry, feet of film, not hours, obviously. So did you open up the edit completely? Did you start from scratch?
We started from scratch. One of the editors divided up the material into themes, if you will, and my first reaction was, I don't work this way, we never did this, but it worked out fine, so you were able to go through and pick out various things, and then, we started absolutely from ground zero. I say that when I first sat down at the machine, at the computer, and was looking at something, and I said, I'm going to go back and see those things. My hand shot out to a control panel, like from 50 years ago, muscle memory, just kick it right out. That's why it went like this. And I said, oh no, I got to use the mouse. So I said that same kind of thing happened. I think editing thing happened inside my brain, but it was just muscle memory, it was just automatically fall right into the editing process.
I bet one of the hardest parts of this edit is to what degree do you leave conversations whole? Like, conversations are mounting.
Yes.
Not taking, like, to what degree do you leave a whole conversation whole versus enter it? And I imagine there's just, you're not following a story, you're following multiple conversations.
That's right. Yes.
I have to imagine those were very difficult choices.
It was. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. It was. I say that you had a lot of jewels and you had to pick which one that you wanted. So that like Louis Ripper and Louis Blake are talking about at the airport with Lindbergh arriving and Bill Robertson, the black actor, coming over and putting out his hand, and Lindbergh turning away, and then Mayor Jimmy Walker, who had a terrible reputation. He was corrupt, a playboy, and everything else. But at that moment of truth, he stuck out his hand. So yeah.
One of the joys I think of a film like this is I love 16 millimeter, but it's so nice with what you're able to do with digital scans now, what you're able to see in 16 millimeter, right? I have to imagine you saw this film almost a little differently through that. Like, you probably were used to probably very familiar with this footage from the 70s,
Right.
What that scan and kind of what you're able to see in the 16 millimeter.
Well, it's so funny. I just saw the footage. I didn't see the difference. I saw the difference absolutely after the finishing house got through with it. They took out hairs from the gate, things like that. And of course, smoothing out between the scenes, the color corrections and things like that. But the difference, if you will, between looking at digital, even the scans and 60 millimeter, I did not see the difference in that.
I think we have a mic. We have some mics here. If anybody has a question, David and I certainly keep talking, but if anybody wants to chime in here, please raise your hand. Oh, we got one right up here. Oh, two up here.
Thank you so much. This is seriously such an honor. I can't wait to see the film tomorrow. I'm wondering how you felt afterwards, after you finished, because I am an early filmmaker. One of the biggest projects that I'm looking at is trying to tell the story of my family founding the first Black American radio station in Detroit, actually in the States. And there's so much archive, so much stuff. There's a lot of logistics, but I'm thinking the most daunting part is maybe wanting to do my ancestors proud and to tell it how they would be proud and to tell the story and do it justice. And I'm sure you've done that, and I'm wondering what it feels like on the other side of that.
Oh, to have you finished that. It feels very good. It feels satisfying to know that, as I say, we nailed the concept, not the treatment, but we nailed the concept of the travel of the African spirit from and from antiquity through the Middle Passage and through the 10 generations, if you will, of slavery, to get that story. And there's a poem on a Negro speak of rivers, and it sort of encapsulates all of that. And I had originally had a lot of the story, history, and antiquity, history of Africa at the beginning of the film. But gee, gotta know about this, Timbuktu, this and that, and people in the streets said, gee, yeah, let's get to the party. Let's get to the party. So I found that you could put all of that into that poem, and so that's why in the poem you see the ancient Africa, and then you see the Middle Passage, and then you see the shack, and so that's what the film based on, if you will, and so it just worked. It didn't need all that other stuff. Just go with the flow.
There's also one up here. Do something.
Hello, my name is Elijah Gabriel. I attend Morehouse College, Rising Junior. And my question is, well, first, it's an honor to be here. And I love your work, your father's work in terms of documentary work, because I always love documentaries. That's sort of my lane. And my question is, are you working on any documentaries of the current time period in America? And what is something you learned from your father that affects your filmmaking style?
Well, first of all, I'm not working on any other documentaries, although my daughter is trying a thing on Ralph Bunch. Because my father did a story.
She was a big part of this one, right? Your daughter was a big part of this one.
Oh yes. No, she was one of the producers, and without her, I don't know how this thing would come together. Because Louise said before she had to, David, you can't do all this stuff. You will not be able to do all this. And so.
Oh, hi. My name is Rao Ramtala. I'm from New York City. I lived in Georgia. So I know I'm exposed to the African American culture. And we all know Harlem is the cultural mecca of African Americans in America. But there are also other places like Detroit or Chicago. Have you considered maybe include some of other stories from other major African American cities into your perspective, or and also what compelled you to tell this story? I mean, there are a lot of African Americans, but you are the one who is telling the story. What made you to do that?
Well, Harlem was the center, if you will, Harlem of Harlemism, and it was, as he says, a mecca that attracted the most creative folks to, if you will, the library, and that was the center of the world for the intellectual, creative folks when they got to New York. Where you go to the library. You meet each other. You collaborate, and then it was in that meeting, in that collaboration at the library, from the library to various apartments, to the various social events, and so they kept this constant collaboration, working together, going on, and from that we had the Renaissance.
Yeah, and it's worth saying William grew up in the shadow of that. I mean, that's he literally grew up there. And
Yeah, he grew up there. He knew some of the people, and one of the main characters, Richard Moore, had a book center, and my father took me there before it closed. So and people like Richard Moore were his, I would say his mentor, one of his mentors, one of the folks who helped shape him.
The world could use more David and Williams, and if they live in Detroit, I would be awesome for them too. we could use a David and William in Detroit doing that. So hopefully, we'll be growing up in the shadow of the culture there. Thank you so much. It is so wonderful to see how this film is being received. I know Neon, everybody should see this here at Cannes, but then Neon picked it up, so I'm sure they're gonna. Some point this year, everybody's going to this.
Yes.
Susan says October,
October.
which I can't help but notice that's probably around awards, so you're probably going to have to get a lot used to these.
Okay. yes.
And but a real pleasure to have you here, sir. And thank you for finishing this film.
Thank you.
It's,
Appreciate it. Thank you.